Hello, Business 270 students. This is Professor Hassey. It's week 3 of our fall study, midterm examination week. You say to yourself, hey, it's only week 3. This is an 8-week course. Why is the midterm in week 3? Well, for 2 reasons. It kind of breaks and follows the pattern of study in this course, and I don't want to go over into another area and have the midterm, and it's a cleaner break with the midterm at this point in time. This midterm is 3 questions from chapters 1 and 5, and this video is to introduce the week, and then tomorrow, today is Wednesday, September 7th, and then on Friday, September 9th, I will be giving some more details about the midterm and all that. The midterm is due on Monday, September 12th, not Sunday. You get an extra day, Monday, September 12th. And I'll go more into that in a few minutes. But it's on chapters 1 through 5. We're also studying chapter 6 this week, but that's going to be the subject of a paper next week, a 2 to 3 page short paper, and the subject of that will be chapter 6 and chapter 8, discrete probability distributions and sampling, and more on that next week. But this week, we're kind of wrapping up the introduction to statistics, and that's what this week is all about. Okay, a couple of infrastructure things. Number one, many of you have posted your case number 1 work. I'll be grading that Thursday and Friday, posting the grades on Friday, and part of my video on Friday will be to review that case study. Also, if you have not posted your case study, please do so before Thursday, because if you have not made prior arrangements in extension, I need that in order to post the grades on Friday. So make sure you post your work if it's outstanding in the next 24 hours, please. So what have we accomplished besides getting totally confused so far in this class? I've had a couple of feedback, and number one, I appreciate feedback from students. Where is this? I don't know how to do this. I can't find this in Blackboard. Please let me know, because it's very helpful for me to make sure you understand where material is in this online Blackboard site. Couple of questions on Mr. Hassey, what do we have to do this week? What is the timeline? When are things due? Well, if you go to your course syllabus and schedule and information, you click on and you go to that area, and you'll see a brief macro view of our course, but then the important dates are right here, right underneath it, when things are due. Naturally, some of it are academic withdrawal dates, course concluding dates, evaluation dates, but also the dates of the problems and work that we will be doing in this class. For example, last week we had case study number 1, which you all posted. This week we have the midterm examination, which is due on September 12th. And it's 20% of your course grade. Then next week we get into our series of weekly papers, 2 to 3 page papers summarizing some material that we're reviewing. So next week, paper due is September 18th. We go back to the Monday or the Sunday due dates. Then the following week, another paper is due. Then the following week, another paper is due. Then we get into a discussion forum in our week 7, and then our last week is the final examination concluding the studies of the course. Final examination is going to be very similar to the midterm examination setup. Very broad-based questions highlighting the overall material of the course. The papers will be specific areas or problems of study that we're studying that week. So again, if you're confused about where things are, just go to the file folder in Blackboard entitled Course Syllabus, Schedule, and Information, and there you will see the important dates so you can know when things are due and what's our schedule for this course. And again, if you have any other specific questions, please let me know. I am here to answer those. Remember, we have student hours every Thursday night at 6 o'clock. I'm on board if you have any questions. Sometimes I'm traveling to and fro, but just bear with me. I will be there on Thursday evenings if you have questions and concerns. Okay, so there's important some couple key questions I've gotten from students these first 2 weeks is where do I find things? What are our due dates? So there they are right there. Okay, great. And what have we talked about this first few weeks heading into our third week of midterm? Well, we've talked about an introduction to statistics. What is statistics? All right. Statistics is the measurement and interpreting of data. And it can be measured in graphs. It can be measured in frequency distributions, like you did in your case number one. It can be measured in numerical measurements like mean, median, and mode, which you're doing in your midterm. It can be displayed in pie charts and all different types of ways of analyzing and then interpreting and showing the data. That's what we're studying these first few weeks is what is statistics? Why are we doing it? What's the purpose of it? Well, it's to give us information about a variety of things. Very important if you're a Major League Baseball player is what is your batting average? Well, that's a statistic. It's the number of hits divided by into the number of at-bats. If you're in economics or trying to study the economy, the inflation index is important. That's a statistic, an index of how prices have gone up from one point to another, the inflation index. If you're interested in golf, your handicap index is a very important statistic. What is my score on average in relation to par on the golf course? If you're interested in shopping or retail, the statistics of customers, market share, all kinds of information. So again, a lot of us are not going to be crunching these numbers throughout our professional career, but we are going to be using these numbers in interpreting and understanding what our business is all about and how we are doing. That's the importance of statistics. So a couple of key points to come out of the first week was what is the definition of statistics? What is a frequency table? And what is the numerical measurements of statistics? Mean, median, and mode. What is average? What is median, the midpoint? What is mode? What's the number of frequencies or number of variables that occur the most often? These are things you need to get out of that first week of class. Then we headed into week 2, and we're beginning to talk about probability. What is probability? Well, probability is going to the racetrack and betting on a horse. And what are the odds of that horse winning? That's probability. What are the chances? Probability is if you follow the weather, there's a 20% chance of rain today. Well, that's a probability that it will rain. Not a great chance, especially if you're in California, but the probability of certain events happening. Well, in business, that's very important. What is the likelihood we're going to have a strong economy? What is the probability we're going to have a weak economy? And you measured strategic decisions based on those probabilities. And probabilities can be measured in a population or in a sample. And that's another key characteristic of statistics. What are you trying to find out? Is it an overall population of an entire crunch of data, or is it a specific sample of data? That's an important concept to understand. And then we head into this final week where we're talking about, and this is not included in the midterm, the effects of discrete distribution. And in other words, picking specific characteristics of probabilities. Example, what's the chances of the Rams beating the Chargers on Thursday Night Football? Well, there's odds on that. Right now, I believe the Bills are 2.5-point favorites. Well, that's the likelihood that odds makers say that in order for you to bet, if you bet on the Rams, you're going to get 2.5 points from the Bills. That's the probability of victory for Buffalo, is they think they're going to win by 2.5 more points. Why the half? That makes it very interesting when it comes to betting. Are they going to win by 2 or win by 3? If they win by 3, you win. If they win by 2, the Rams win. This is all based on probability and likelihood of performance that is set by Vegas odds maker. That's a key probability of a discrete probability for a specific event, a specific occurrence. So our midterm is designed to go over these key concepts, especially of week 1 and week 2. Review that material, and that material is in these questions that we talk about. So again, you go to the examination file folder. There's the midterm. It's in 2 different files. Both are the same, a Word doc and a PDF. Download those files and then answer the questions either on the Word document or create your own file and submit that by clicking on the file heading and going to submission, finding your work, and then upload your work and then submit your work. Again, if you have any questions on that. But that's the topic, is basically this midterm is designed for you to make sure that you have the basics of the determination of what is statistics and what are the key measurements of statistics. Mean, median, and mode. What's the definition of probability? And that's what we're talking about in this midterm examination. The purpose of the midterm examination in week 3, and I know that this is a lot for the first 3 weeks. You've done a case study, now you're doing a midterm. But then with our paperwork over the next few weeks, things are a little bit slower. Paperwork, you're just concentrating on one idea or one thought, one value, one interpretation, and then explaining it. And so that makes it a little bit easier to do your work. But now we just want to make sure that you have the basics of the definition of statistics. And that's what this midterm's about. So I set it up in 3 questions. The first question is basically definition. It's all questions from chapters 1 through 4. And you just are to answer. The science of collecting, organizing, presenting, analyzing, interpreting data to assist in making effective decisions is called, pretty obvious. And then so on. Fill in or answer the blanks to these 5 questions, okay? The second section is having you do some calculations of numerical measurements taken from chapter 3. Here's a sample of 8 college students and how many CDs they owned. What is the average or mean of CDs owned? What is the median number of CDs owned? And what is the 40th percentile of this series of numbers? What is the 40th percentile? So I want you to tell me those 3 numbers, okay? The average, the midpoint, the percentile of this bit of data in the 40th percentile. Okay, so those definitions are all in chapter 3. Mean is probably the easiest. You just take an average of the numbers. But again, I'm looking for you to make sure you understand those calculations. Remember, in mean, you have 2 different types of mean. One is called a mu, which is a U, and that is the average of a population. Another mean is a sample mean, which is called an X bar. An X bar is, again, the average of a sample of data. There's no real difference between the calculations of those. It just means when somebody says, I want you to give me the mu of a group of numbers, that means, oh, I'm finding the population average of an entire population. For example, if I ask you to do a study of what do people at the University of Laverne think about who's going to win the next election? Well, then you would take the entire population of the University of Laverne and find that average, okay? If I'd ask you to tell me, who do you think is going to win the next election out of the senior class? Oh, that's a sample of the population. What's the sample? The senior class. Same calculation, you just take all the seniors and determine. So what's the difference? Well, when you interpret the data, you know that the mean of the population is the entire Laverne community. It makes a little bit more detail and a little bit better explanation of the data. The sample is, okay, that's what the seniors think, but it's not what the overall opinion is of the entire community. And that's the difference. Mu is the mean of a population. X bar is the mean of a sample. And sometimes understanding the difference between a population and a sample is very important. Okay, so there's that calculation. And then in part 3, I want you to do some basic probability work. All right, and this is from chapter 5, if you want a reference. A chicken factory has several stores, and who comes up with these questions? Hilton Head, South Carolina. When interviewing applicants for some server positions, the owner would like to include information information on the amount, of a tip server can expect to earn per check. In other words, they did a sample of 500 checks, and these were the amount of tips given in those 500 checks, 0 to 20, $20 to 50, 50 to 100, and so on. What is the probability of a tip of $200 or more? So if I'm applying for a job at this chicken factory, restaurants, and I might ask them, all right, I'd like to work here, but what is the probability that I will get a $200 tip? Well, based on this information, you can calculate that probability. And I want to know what that is. Are the categories 0 through $20 and $20 to $50 and so on considered mutually exclusive? Are all these events, these classes, I guess you could say, remember classes from the frequency table you did in case 1, are these classes mutually exclusive? What does that mean? Next question, what is the probability of a tip of up to $50? What is the probability of getting a tip up to $50? And finally, what is the probability of a tip less than $200? So tell me what those probabilities are. Remember, probabilities can be in a decimal or a percentage, either or. Decimal like 0.2 is 20%. So give me those probabilities, especially for parts A, C, and D, and then tell me what it's meant by mutually exclusive. And these 3 questions pretty well sum up the first couple weeks of our class. The definition of statistics, what it is, the understanding of averaging, mean, median, and the percentile group, and the definition and understanding of what a probability is and how to calculate it. From this basic information, we go on next week to our paperwork on specific topics in sampling, standard deviation, blah, blah, blah. And I'll talk more about that next time. And I'll talk more about that in our Friday video about specifics of what that means. So here's our midterm. I will have the grades posted and reviewed in our Friday video about case 1. If you have yet to produce or post that work, please do so as soon as possible. I'm available Thursday evening if you have any follow-up questions, but look for my video on Friday and over the weekend to kind of fine-tune our discussion topics. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. I hope you're staying cool, and we'll see you next time.